So there I was watching the UFC last night, Vegas 88, and I was enjoying the fights. I thought the prelims were good, and I thought that the main card was pretty good. I wasn't too interested in the Tuivasa thing because I'm not just a big Tuivasa fan. And, like I said, I've been around since the VHS days. I mean, I go back that far, and I've been involved in martial arts myself for about 40 years. So I enjoy watching it, but part of what I saw last night was a real turnoff. And it was this fight between Brian Battle and Ange Loosa. And let's just get right into it. Let's get into the article, and then I'll give you my commentary and thoughts on it. This is from MMA Junkie over there at USA Today. And it says, Brian Battle says Ange Loosa milked UFC Fight Night 239 eye poke. No contest is better than a loss. And the fight ended up becoming a no contest because of the eye poke. And I'm not going to, play the interview, listening to this guy talk, but let's just get into the facts. And this is from Nolan King and Ken Hathaway yesterday, about 10:45 p.m. Brian Battle exits UFC Fight Night 239 with a mix of emotions, but none make him feel anything less than a winner, despite a no contest ruling. In Saturday's co-main event, Battle 10-2 MMA, 5-1 UFC, thumbed opponent Ange Loosa, who's 10-3 and 2-1 in the UFC, in the eye at the UFC Apex. After a timeout, Loosa said he could not see, and the fight was waved off. Bruce Buffer read the no contest ruling, and then the two fighters were separated after Battle called out Loosa, an energy he carried into his post-fight news conference. Battle thinks Loosa exaggerated the eye poke's damage to avoid a loss. What triggered the argument is that I looked at him and I called him a pussy. Battle told MMA Junkie and other reporters, I knew it wasn't that bad. I've been poked in the eye before. I've accidentally poked people in the eye before. I'm sitting here looking at him and he's fine. It was really just one of those things where he was getting his ass whooped. He knew there was no way he was going to win that fight. He knew without a shadow of a doubt there was no way he was going to win that fight. So when he had an opportunity to act like he couldn't see, that they would call it a no contest. He did. I mean, a no contest is better than a loss, which is clearly what he was headed for. He didn't have the speed. He didn't have the power. He didn't have the size, blah, blah, blah. He didn't have blah, blah, blah. It's unfortunate, but whatever. We move on. That's life. That's a fight game. I've got bigger and better things on the horizon. Anyway, we just keep on moving. It's not uncommon practice. The UFC runs back fights that end in controversial fouls, though the promotion has not indicated that will be the case with Battle versus Loosa. While Battle would happily accept a second crack at Loosa, he indicated he's otherwise moved past the matchup. I don't see how he agrees to a rematch, Battle said. That's an easy paycheck for me. I would prefer to keep on moving up in the rankings. I prefer to fight someone with a little more of a name. We're the co-main event, but we're not the co-main event if he's the A side. I was the A side of this match. I'm ready to move into something bigger and better. If the UFC hits me up and they're like, Ange Loosa on such and such a date, I'm like, all right, fine. I'll whoop him. I'll whip his ass again. So basically, that's kind of what happened. Here's what I saw. He thumbs him and the match stops. They go off to their separate corners, and about a minute into it, I think it was Mike Beltran. Was the referee, if I'm not mistaken. And about a minute into this timeout, and we know that fighters have 5 minutes before, they either have to resume or I guess the match is going to be called. But about 1 minute into it, Loosa says he can't see. And so the fight is stopped. Now, Loosa understands the implications here, and that he is costing the fight, and I guess the pay window, or I don't know exactly how this affects pay, this, that, or whatever. And when he went to face him, he was kind of sheepish about the way that he was like, sorry, and then Battle just started right in. Now, here's the thing. And MMA Twitter is just all over the place, all over Loosa, this, that, and the other. These MMA bros who are just perfectly happy to have someone gouge, have their eye put out as long as the fight keeps on going. It's just a bunch of teenage bozos, and yeah, they're just kind of clowns. But here's the thing, and this is something that Battle is not even getting into. He's the one who commits the foul. He fouled Loosa. And as far as I'm concerned, being involved in martial arts for decades, watching this MMA for, decades, 30 years now, he's the one who fouled Loosa, but he completely acknowledges no responsibility for it. He doesn't say, hey, sorry about the foul. He should have had a point deducted right there. As far as I'm concerned, when it comes to this sort of stuff, these fouls, these low shots, these fighters need to be penalized. They need to have a point deducted off of their card, and that will shake people up really fucking fast. Same with the low blows. But he doesn't do any of that. Instead, it's all the other guy's fault because, hey, I fouled you, and you're a punk for not just taking the foul. The absolute lack of accountability and the absolute lack of integrity, and it's typical of what you see a lot in MMA that is encouraged by these guys who they don't want to fight so much as they want to create a brand and a persona. And it's just, it's awful. And, I understand, like I've seen some really bad eye pokes. I think one of the worst I ever saw was the Cormier Stipe 3 fight where, he practically put DC's eye out. But then again, DC did a lot of eye poking too. So I understand the difference between what happened with Loosa and, Lhasa and what happened with that, like the DC Stipe fight. But, I mean, have you ever been thumbed in the eye? It's not a great experience. So, I told, I went back and forth a little bit with some people on X, but in a friendly way. And I'm like, hey, man, if you send me a video of you, go to your local MMA gym if you're training and have the best fighter there thumb you in the eye. Time it for 60 seconds and then get right back in there. You send me that 2-minute video, I'll start taking what you're saying seriously. Past that, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a bunch of MMA bros who just want to see blood. They want to see, someone, get their eye poked out or, just be fouled and injured and just keep on going and going and going. And the ironic thing was that Michael Bisping was there at the commentary table. And I love Bisping. I think he's just, I think he's like one of the best to ever do it. But, Bisping, I think, was talking a little bit to Battle, maybe empathizing or sympathizing or saying it was BS. They didn't exactly catch it on the mic. But I'm not sure that Bisping is the best example for this sort of thing, because what you sort of realize is that, there's life outside of this. If you have any sort of maturity whatsoever, there's life outside of fighting. There's life after fighting. And, you shouldn't have to lose your eye to prove it or to prove that you're a tough guy or something like this. But this is what happens when martial arts become a sport. They become a sport, and so people become fans, and fans are short for fanatics. And so the fighters end up having to, and maybe they just are, some of the fighters just are this way, but they end up, playing to the fan base, the emotions of the fan base. So it doesn't make a difference if you thumb somebody in the eye. The fact that, they don't want to, just play along with you and just keep going after they've taken the thumb in the eye makes it their fault, not the actual person that's fouled. As far as I'm concerned, Battle should have lost a point, and that probably would have slowed him down some. I thought that a lot of the blows that the commentary team were going crazy over weren't really landing. It's true, he was dominating the fight, but there was still a long way to go. So who knows? Maybe they'll fight again. Maybe they won't. It would be cool to see if they did come back to meet again and then just get this settled. But for me, the highlight of the fight night itself was the Gerald Meerschaert fight, who after choking his opponent unconscious, immediately went over to the opponent and actually worked to revive him. I think the referee was Herb Dean, who said, no, I've got it. That shows a lot more integrity and the martial arts world that I know, because the martial arts world that I know goes back 1,000 years. It's not just some new thing, for, skinny little twiggy, jujitsu nerds who have been around for maybe 30 years and think that, this is a flash in the pan of a much larger piece of history. And I think the sooner that things sort of circle back, as they always do, to this place where there is integrity and not so much about trash talking or tapping somebody out and then jumping up and down like some sort of baboon, screeching baboon, or, dancing, or all these sorts of things. I think the better the martial arts world will be. This is sort of a bastardization of the martial arts. And, this discussion happened in some part a few decades ago when MMA first showed up on the scene. But what it's turned into now, I'm not exact. While I enjoy watching the contests, the behaviors of some of the fighters themselves, I don't really appreciate. So as far as I'm concerned, battle, I don't care about. If you can't even acknowledge that you did something wrong, you want to blow it off and blame it on someone else, then you're just a tool, and you're just a tool appealing to other tools. I'd much rather see someone like Meerschaert, who seems to have a better heart about these sorts of things, and a calmer mind, and a more mature presence. Okay, that's my video. Like this video. I appreciate it. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Did you see it? What did you think? What about my points? Because a lot of people that I talked to on X just kept repeating the same points. Well, he didn't take the 5 minutes. He didn't take, and I said, well, in 1 minute, you're perfectly allowed to say, I can't see, if you can't see. And then, well, I should mention, because I started to close out the video, there was a bit of a, almost fight again when he started, calling him names. And he's like, well, you got all this energy now. Well, it has nothing to do with energy or the ability to get angry. I can be, if I can't see, I still have the ability to get angry, and curse at someone. But yeah, again, the guy committing the foul suddenly is the victim. And that seems to be representative of so much that's going on in the world today. It's a drag. Okay, like I said, that's my video. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Just because you're angry, does that mean that your eye's not hurt? Should you have to sacrifice your eye? Is it not okay to say, hey, I can't see? Maybe you actually can't see. I find no fault. Subscribe to the channel. I will see you all in the next video. Later, Gators.